He was born out of wedlock in a society that clings tightly to tradition. Hello beautiful people. Welcome to my channel, the home of inspiring, thrilling, and unforgettable stories from Africa. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Your support helps me bring more amazing stories your way. Thank you, and let's dive right into today's tale. Once upon a time, in a certain town called Obodo, there lived a young boy called Philip. Philip was born under the thick clouds of gossip and shame. In a small, close-knit village where tradition sat heavily on the shoulders of every family, a child born out of wedlock was seen as a curse, a mistake, and worst of all, a constant reminder of broken morality. His mother, Adora, was just 18 when she gave birth to him. She had once been the pride of the village, known for her beauty and respectful nature. But the moment her belly began to swell and no husband came forth, the same tongues that once praised her began to lash. From the moment Philip took his first breath, life was a battle. The villagers whispered, "Who born am?" At school, things were worse. Children laughed behind Philip's back. "Fatherless boy," they called him. "Who born USEF?" There were days when he returned home with torn exercise books and bruises on his face. Adora tried to comfort him, holding his tiny hands and whispering, "You are not what they say you are, my son. You are more than their words." But the words dug deep. No family wanted their children to play with Philip. He sat alone during festivals, stood aside during communal work, and was barely noticed during village events. The elders never recognized him during age grade listings. As far as the community was concerned, he didn't belong. Yet Adora never gave up. She sold fruits, cleaned people's compounds, and went from house to house, looking for laundry to wash, just to pay for Philip's education. Children were warned to stay away from Philip. Parents used his story as a cautionary tale. He was mocked in school, often called names like, "Son of Sin," or, "The Cursed One." Even his teachers avoided close contact, as if shame was contagious. Despite the ridicule, Philip was a quiet, thoughtful boy. He had a hunger for knowledge and an even greater hunger for belonging. But no matter how hard he tried, the village wouldn't let him forget the circumstances of his birth. One day, Philip's teacher, Mrs. Nusu, assigned a project that required students to write about their family history. Philip, eager to showcase his knowledge, spent hours researching and writing about his ancestors. However, when it was time to present, Mrs. Nusu asked each student to bring their parents to class. Philip's heart sank as he realized he couldn't bring his mother, Adora, due to the stigma surrounding his birth. He felt a wave of shame wash over him as he thought about the whispers and snickers that would follow if his classmates discovered the truth. The day of the presentation arrived, and Philip couldn't bear the thought of facing his classmates without his mother. He decided not to attend school that day, but Mrs. Nusu tracked him down and demanded an explanation for his absence. When Philip confessed that he didn't have a father to bring to class, Mrs. Nusu's expression turned cold. "You're a product of irresponsible behavior," she said, her voice dripping with disdain. "You need to learn to be proud of who you are, despite your circumstances." The words cut deep, and Philip felt like he'd been punched in the gut. He realized that even the people he respected and admired could be cruel and judgmental. The humiliation and rejection became too much to bear. That night, Philip couldn't sleep. He couldn't take the constant pain and rejection anymore. By the time he finished secondary school, Philip had had enough. The stares, the whispers, the isolation, they had all grown too heavy. He was now a young man, strong and tall, with eyes that carried the pain of years. One day, the village elder, Chief Okoro, called a meeting to discuss the upcoming festival. Philip, eager to contribute, attended the meeting and offered some suggestions. However, when he spoke, Chief Okoro dismissed his ideas, saying, "You're just a bastard child, what do you know about our traditions?" The villagers snickered and nodded in agreement, their faces twisted in disdain. Philip felt like he'd been slapped in the face. He tried to defend himself, but Chief Okoro cut him off, saying, "You're not one of us, Philip. You're not a true son of Obodo. You don't belong here." The words stung, and Philip felt like he was being torn apart. He realized that no matter how hard he tried, he would never be accepted as one of their own. The villagers would always see him as an outsider, a reminder of shame and illegitimacy. As Philip walked away from the meeting, he felt a sense of despair wash over him. He thought about all the times he'd tried to fit in, all the times he'd been rejected and humiliated. He realized that he didn't belong in Obodo, and that it was time for him to leave. One evening, while sitting under the mango tree beside their small hut, he turned to his mother and said, "Mummy, I want to leave the village. I want to go to the city. I can't stay here anymore." Adora's eyes welled up with tears. "My son, the city is full of wolves. You have no one there. What will you eat? Where will you sleep?" "I'll find a way," he said with resolve. "I'd rather die trying than live like this." She said nothing for a while. Then, that night, when the moon was high and silence had settled over the village, Adora entered Philip's room and woke him up. In her hands, she held a small, old wooden box. She opened it gently and brought out a custom-made golden necklace with a tiny emblem of a road construction vehicle and a designer yellow polo shirt, neatly folded and preserved. "These," she said in a trembling voice, "are from your father. He gave them to me before he left. Maybe they will help you find him someday." Philip stared at her in shock. "Mummy, who is my father? And how did you meet him?" Adora sat beside him, her hands shaking as she held the items. "His name is Raymond. He was an engineer. We met during the construction of the main road that passes through our village. He was kind, respectful, and different from all the men I knew. One thing led to another, and we exchanged our bodies. He left shortly after, and I discovered I was pregnant. He never came back." Philip took the necklace and the polo shirt and held them close. "I'll find him, Mummy. Someday." Early the next night, Philip left the village. His mother walked him to the edge of the main road, where they hugged tightly for a long time. "Never forget who you are," she said. "And don't lose that necklace." As he walked out of the village, Philip felt a mix of emotions, sadness, anger, and determination. He knew that he had a long journey ahead of him, but he was ready to face whatever challenges came his way. He was determined to find a place where he belonged, where he could be himself without fear of rejection or humiliation. The village of Obodo faded into the distance as Philip disappeared into the night, his heart heavy with sorrow but his spirit fueled by hope. With a small bag over his shoulder and nothing but dreams in his heart, Philip boarded an old bus heading to the city. The journey was long and tiring. The city, when it finally appeared, was massive and overwhelming. Tall buildings replaced palm trees, and noisy streets replaced the chirping birds of the village. He had no friends, no connections, just the polo shirt and the golden necklace. But he had hope and his mother's prayers. No one offered him a job. He wandered the streets, slept under the bridge, begged for food, and bathed in public taps. At night, he curled into himself on cold cement, staring at the sky, remembering his mother's voice. One day, he met a kind vulcanizer named Sunday. Sunday introduced him to Oga Chinadu, a mechanic who ran a small workshop. "I know they pay apprentice Oga Chinadu warned. "I just want to learn," Philip replied. And that's how his mechanic journey began. He worked harder than anyone else. Cleaned the gutters, fetched water, fetched parts, and studied engines at night with torchlight. Girls noticed him. "Fine boy like you know get babe," Amaka teased. Philip only smiled. He had vowed No relationship until I find my roots. I won't bring a child into this world the way I came. Back in the city, before Philip's life took a dramatic turn, he remained fiercely focused while learning the mechanic trade. Life under the bridge had taught him resilience, but it was the scars from the village that carved his deeper discipline. The workshop where he worked was filled with distractions, boys his age joking, talking about girlfriends, and chasing after every pretty lady who came for car repairs. Philip, however, kept his head down and his hands busy with bolts, engines, and greasy gears. It wasn't like the opportunity for love didn't come. In fact, he had caught the eye of many girls, especially after customers started complimenting him and requesting only him for their car repairs. His polite manner, hard-working spirit, and striking looks made him stand out. One girl, Amaka, the daughter of a local food vendor, often brought extra meat in his plate of rice. "Philip, you dey try well. If na some boys, dem for don give up," she would say, flashing a smile. But Philip always smiled politely and kept the conversation short. Another, a hairdresser named Clara, once waited after work to walk with him. "Why you dey act like say you know like woman?" she teased. "Abby you don marry." Philip paused, looked her in the eye, and replied calmly, "I'm not ready. I have things I must find first." Then he muttered, "I don't want to bring a child into this world the way I came. I need to find my true root before I start my own family." That became his silent vow. He remembered every insult, every name the village children called him: bastard, fatherless, cursed. He had felt that emptiness, the pain of not having a father to defend him, to guide him, or even to be proud of him. He once said to his fellow apprentice, "James, I don't want my child to ever be asked, 'Where is your father?' I want to find my purpose first. Only then can I truly begin my life." That resolve became his compass. Even when others laughed at him, saying he was too serious for his age, he stayed focused. He saved every kobo he could, sometimes skipping lunch just to put money aside. In his free time, he read car manuals, watched YouTube videos about engineering, and dreamed of something bigger. He wasn't just fixing cars. He was fixing his future. And unknowingly, with every bolt he tightened, every engine he cleaned, he was drawing closer to the destiny that would eventually lead him to the house of Raymond, the man whose absence had shaped his every decision. This silent, steadfast vow would become one of the pillars that shaped Philip's character, distinguishing him from the rest. His pain became his purpose. His patience, his greatest power. One client stood out: Cynthia. She drove a white sub and came often. Cynthia was young, bold, and always requested Philip. They became friends. She admired his humility, and he admired her confidence. But what Philip didn't know was that Cynthia was Raymond's youngest sister. One weekend, Cynthia invited Philip to her family's house for a weekend party. He hesitated but finally agreed. He wore the yellow designer polo. The moment Raymond saw him at the house gate, his eyes froze. He saw the necklace, the polo, and a face that mirrored his own. "Where did you get that?" he asked, trembling. Philip's voice was calm. "It was my mother's." "Your mother?" asked Raymond. "Did she tell you where she got it from?" "She said it belonged to my father. His name is Raymond. He was an engineer." Raymond sat in silence, chairs building. Raymond's voice dropped into a whisper, his eyes fixed on the yellow polo and golden necklace. "Who is your mother?" he asked, stepping closer, barely able to breathe. Philip swallowed hard. His voice cracked. "Her name is Adora. Adora from Obodo village." Raymond staggered a step backward like someone hit by a silent thunderbolt. "Adora," he repeated, dazed. "Adora. The girl I left behind when the road project ended." Raymond's hands trembled. His knees buckled, and he fell to a seat, his eyes misted with tears. The room went still, too still. My God, he muttered, looking at the necklace like it held every answer. All these years, I never knew. I waited for a letter that never came. I grew up with questions, Philip said, his voice soft. They mocked me, called me a bastard. Mummy never spoke ill of you. She said you were kind, and that you didn't know. Raymond rose to his feet, emotion choking him. He walked toward Philip, unsure if he should touch him. I didn't know, son. I swear to you, I didn't know. His voice cracked, raw and honest. Philip's lips trembled, his heart thundering. So, you are Raymond. Raymond didn't answer. Instead, he pulled Philip into a fierce, trembling hug. I have a son. I have a son. He wept against Philip's shoulder. And he's grown into a better man than I ever dreamed. Philip closed his eyes. The embrace, the warmth, felt like something he had longed for his entire life. I found you, Dad, he whispered. I finally found you. And for the first time in years, both father and son let their tears fall. Tears of pain, joy, forgiveness, and the beginning of a bond that was lost, and now found. Cynthia screamed, "Wait, are you saying you're my brother's son?" From that moment, life turned drastically. Philip was now living a new life. No longer under the bridge, no longer mocked, and no longer fatherless. Raymond had taken him in not just as a son but as an heir to a legacy long denied. Cynthia, ever supportive, stood as the bridge between their past and future, guiding them both toward healing. But one part of the journey remained incomplete. Raymond knew he had to do the one thing he had avoided for decades, return to the village to see Adora. He traveled with Philip and Cynthia, unsure of how he would be received. The road to the village looked familiar, yet foreign, bringing back a flood of memories. They arrived just after noon. Adora was sitting outside her small hut, peeling vegetables. When she saw the car and Philip stepped out, her face lit up. But when Raymond followed, time seemed to pause. She dropped her knife, her lips trembling. "Raymond," she whispered. He walked forward slowly. "Adora, I came back. It's too late, maybe, but I'm here now. And I brought our son. You left. You never looked back." Raymond shook his head. "I never knew. I swear to you, I never received any letter." That was when an old friend from the past appeared, Mr. Linus Uche, a retired surveyor. He revealed that Margaret, Adora's old friend, had hidden the letter, because she was in love with Raymond. The truth exploded, hearts broke, but healing began. Tears flowed freely down her cheeks. She stood, uncertain, until Philip gently took her hand and led her to Raymond. "I never hated you," she said, her voice cracking. "I just wished you had known." "I wish I had," he replied. "I missed everything. His first steps, his first words, the pain you went through. But I'm here to ask for forgiveness. From you, and from him." Adora nodded. "Then let's not waste any more time. You've found your way home." The three of them embraced beneath the setting sun. Mother, father, and son, bound by love, loss, and second chances. Philip returned to Obodo with his head high. The same villagers who mocked him now cheered. Saw him be the son of engineer Raymond. He forgave them, built a community learning center, empowered local youths. He shared his story on radio, in schools, and online. And above all, he kept his vow. He found his root. He found peace. What's the lesson here? No child is a mistake. Every human being deserves identity, love, and truth. A seed planted in pain can still grow into a tree that gives shelter to many. Don't judge people by where they come from. Instead, watch where they're going. Now, I would love to hear from you. Which part of this story touched your heart most? Please share your thoughts in the comments section. I will be reading and replying because your words matter to me. The end. Thank you so much for watching till the end. Your time means the world to me, and I don't take it for granted. Every view, every like, every comment, they encourage me more than you can imagine. I pray that as you support me, God will support you too. May favor find you, may joy never depart from your life, and may all your dreams come true. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to support my growth. Stay safe, stay blessed, see you next time. Bye bye.